What's going on, everybody? Today is Friday. It's Aloha Friday, and it's September 22nd. This is the Daily AI Show live. We got 4 out of 5 today with the Aloha shirts. Not bad. Carl still holding out in Canada. I see how it goes. Eventually, we will have the Aloha shirt on Carl as well.
We're gonna have to send him one.
Maybe a Daily AI Show Aloha shirt. Maybe that's what
Calgary has no relationship to Hawaii, so.
Yeah. Today we are talking about not Hawaii, I suppose, maybe, sure. But no, what we're focusing on today is AI. I know, shocker, but it is an AI show. But we're talking more about the film industry, and the title was Reel to Reel, which frankly, GPT came up for that, but I think it's one of their better titles that it came up with. And we just want to talk about how AI, in the wake of this writer strike and actor strike and things going on there, but just, why they're worried about, not worried, but concerned about what AI can do. We're seeing like sort of AI movies, if you will, now come out that are, look, are they going to wow anybody at the Academy Awards next year? No. Are they starting to look like 1995 when Toy Story came out and the first CGI movie came out and you're like, ooh, that's different? Yeah, I think so. So we're really starting to see this. But I really want to kind of kick it over to Jumi. I know you're always talking about sort of, the film industry, and sort of get your take on this. Like, what's going on? Where are we going with this? All the good stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, where do you start, right? So there's a lot of things that we can start with. And I think what we'll want to do is just give an overview of how the filmmaking works and how that ties into the industry at large. And these are very broad strokes. There's lots of detail to go into and things like that, but I'll try to keep it simple, right? So as part of any filmmaker's process, you break down, it breaks down into pre-production, production, and post-production, right? And this is where the AI tools on a creative basis really comes in. So on the pre-production side, this is where you've done your script writing, and this is where you go through and you identify all of the elements that you're going to need, the location, how many, cast members you're going to need, and all of those kinds of things. And that's basically what you're going to want to do is a script breakdown. So I'm going to go ahead and share some sites here. And so a couple of these pre-production things that you want to do is when you have your script, you need to identify all of the elements in here. And one of the things that creatives can do to help them in this process, because doing this manually takes a lot of time, right? Because you need to review it a few times. You need some extra eyeballs and identify everything. You want to make sure your set designer and production designer have all of the elements they need, and then your location staff and all those kind of stuff. So one of the tools that I came across was like FilmUstage, and essentially they use their AI to analyze your script and automate the script breakdown process. So this identifies all of the individual characters that are in your script, locations that are needed, and all kinds of things like that. Identifying looks and different elements. Another one is Scriptbook, and what they do is they analyze the script itself for different elements. So this will help more with the writing if you need to do revisions and things like that. And so both of these kinds of tools take different aspects. One is more from the production, breakdown, and the other one is more about analyzing the script for its content. So those are just a couple of quick examples of things that you can do in the pre-production stage. And now let's talk about production. So the main thing you want to envision when I talk about production is that's the actual filming, that's the actual acting being captured on film and things like that. And a lot of the things that AI is working in the actual production side seems to be on the back end. So there are things like AI controlled camera movement. And we've talked about this in the past with new AI tools like Roll AI that can simulate those camera movements, all using like iPhones and mobile devices within their ecosystem. So Roll AI is a great new example of, oh, hey, how can we add this? Because one of the things about productions, it eats up a lot of time and you need a lot of people on it. So something like Roll AI will allow you to add digitally or virtually those kind of camera movements and shots and things like that. Still, it's not going to replace traditional production by no means, but it is one more additional tool. And then now let's go to post-production. So one of the new tools that everyone's been talking about is Runway, right? And so Runway ML has been what they've called AI magic tools, has been generating a lot of buzz around their text to video technology, and this is Gen 2. And we've kind of seen similar applications of it in. There was a recent Marvel show called Secret Invasion. Their opening was apparently done by AI. As just as a recent example. But I wanted to highlight the other tools. See, so Gen 2, the text to video gets all the news, but they have all of these individual tools that really help with post-production. And post-production is your video editing. This is where you put in your visual effects and, you really cut the movie together. But one of the things that they're doing is they've got text to image. This is the expand image. It's sort of like the generative fill that you see in Adobe products. A lot of cleanup things like erase and replace, taking out backgrounds. These are all individual elements that eat up a lot of time if you have to do it in the traditional way, right? And but I think highlighting these various tools that Runway's been working with is phenomenal. They offer a lot of time-saving tools, and I think that's the main thing that creatives will really get out of all of these AI tools and AI services is the ability to just cut down how much time they spend using the traditional methods or methods up until now. And that just allows for more of everything, right? So more creativity, more time that can be spent on other parts or sections that don't get as much love as it should be. So yeah, I would recommend checking out Runway just so that you can see all of these other individual tools beyond their text to video. Are there any questions at this point, or anything I can highlight?
Well, I think a lot of what you're showing me, what it brings up is I have this really good friend, lifelong friend, named Dave Torres, who is an animator today, as well as his wife at Pixar, who we're all familiar with. But he got out of college a year before. He was a year older than me. So anyway, he went to the Ringling School of Art and Design, close to where I live, down in Sarasota, Florida. And he would have been there 95 to 99. Right. That was his years. And like I was just saying at the top of the show, that was right when like Pixar was coming out. Now, if Dave had been, let's say 4 years earlier, he would have been trained in traditional animation, a la The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, whatever, right? Drawing. Dave's an amazing artist. He was in school right at that pivotal point. When I remember it so vividly in the 90s as like an older teenager, watching my buddy go through this, and he became a CGI artist and now or animator. He's now done that his entire career, from the very first Eminem videos. He still has animated the Buzz Lightyear that stands in front of the Buzz Lightyear ride and all the animatronic stuff. He did that. It's still at Disney and I think out in California. He's had this really amazing career now, 25 plus years in the industry, worked for DreamWorks, Blue Sky Studios, now works for Pixar. Anyway, I bring him up to say this because, Jimmy, what gets so exciting about what you're just talking about is I think about these college students today. Now, Dave, back in the day, had a book, an entire room of computers called the render room or whatever they called it, in order to render their final project or whatever it was. And Dave would be like, God help you if that room broke or went down, you could lose hours and hours and hours. And now we think that probably could happen on my laptop sitting on my computer 25 years later, right? There's no need for this render room or anything. So even Dave was going through this metamorphosis, this change in the 90s. What does this mean today for the Dave Torreses that are in college at Ringling School of Art and Design, now having these AI tools that have just proliferated in the last 24, 48 months? Like, how is it changing how they go about doing it? Does it just democratize it? Does it now mean that all these people with these great ideas can now create full-fledged movies, if that's what they're wanting to do, or shorts, and they do not have to rely on these higher end technical coding and all that? I don't know. I'm just curious, like, what does the future of this look like for this kid, with this boy or girl who's like, now I have all the keys and the tools I need, you know?
Well, I think... Oh, go ahead, Carl.
I think, like, just like any field, you'll have the people who it raises from those who don't know to become average, and those who are average to become good, and those who are great to become even better. So even though you have these tools that enable somebody, they're never going to be the storyteller that Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese are. Like that. It doesn't matter what, like, even if you, and it was interesting that Robert not here, because I have a feeling I know where he would go with this, but I would take a Quentin Tarantino, combine him. I think we had even a conversation on this. If he enhanced his movies with AI, whether it's storytelling, with all these tools, you're going to get a 10 times better story or movie, maybe, than somebody who, like an indie filmmaker who just happens to have all these tools at the same time. There's still a skill set. I can imagine from a filmmaker's perspective. Like, can I give you a simple example of that? And it's related to the animator perspective. And I was wondering if I could present my screen here for a second. Yeah, just pop this up. Okay, so this is Wonder Studio, right? Where essentially you can drag and drop like animated characters into a motion and just have it play. So, for example, this is my daughter did a quick dance, and then I just dragged and dropped the robot and had the robot do whatever. And that took, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to render this all out. So
I like the robot's ponytail. That's really cool.
I feel like that. So here's another one. Some person was at a wedding playing but it's not, still not, it still doesn't look right. The guitar's like behind them, right? But you know, that'll eventually get better and so on. I think though that, like, but does that make me an amazing animator against the storytellers at Pixar? Probably not, right? Even though I can create all this, I can use all this, I can even create my own characters and do that. That doesn't even give me, that barely gets me to the base level. That's just, I can do it. I can read a bunch of books, but I still need to create. Like, Junmi, I like from someone who does filmmaking and seeing all the top filmmakers, you need experience. You can't just put out one film and be like, yes, my film is the great. Maybe it can happen, but it's like that's like hitting the lottery. Right. We're talking years of like making movies, having a passion for it, making films, and you know all the things that you can prompt everything. Let's say you can prompt everything. Runway is amazing. You still need to. What angles am I going to prompt? How can I tell a story with my composition, with no dialogue? How can I tell the story with dialogue? How can I tell the story? Like, all these various elements of filmmaking comes with the experience of having created films, right?
Yeah.
Creating films, even if they're bad or good or whatever. Like, all these major filmmakers, they've been doing this for a long time. So I think, like, you can't just replace filmmaking with AI. To me, this is like one of the biggest human components because of that ability to tell a story that we've never seen or heard of before.
I know Robert's not here, but I would just say the quick pushback from me, and it's very brief, is yet. That's my pushback. Yet. Because I think the frontier right now is we're saying AI, and I agree with this, it cannot produce the creativity at the levels of the next Quentin Tarantino, the next whoever, and enter an artist or an actor or a director in there. But I say to that yet. So anyway, go ahead, Andy.
Junmi, I am interested in the pre-production pipeline. So I can imagine that, the large language models can take the format of screenplay, right, which is very different from just a regular document. It has to have all of the different, characters and so on. It could generate, based on a prompt, it could generate a screenplay, and then the tool that you showed that does the analysis of the characters and the elements and all of that other stuff, and takes the script, which is, I guess, what script and screenplay probably mean the same thing in this context. It analyzes that. Then, that seemed like to be, okay, well, that's going to let me, know how many characters I have, how many actors, how many, all assets that I need for this production. Do you know of any tools that take that and actually translate it in a rough schematic form into the blocking and tackling of the layout of the scenes?
Oh, right. So like breaking it out into storyboards and
exactly
those kinds of things. Well, that's what Filmstage is part of. What I've read about them is that's part of it. It's supposed to give blocking. It's and all of that kind of stuff can be found sometimes in the script. So really, their AI is just breaking down all of the recognizable elements, like you said. We've seen AI like recognize receipts. You're just looking for those key components, and those elements, because there is a formalized or semi-formalized method in which scripts are written, it can identify all of those elements. It's like, this is an interior shot, this is an exterior shot, time of day, location, characters, their names, what are they wearing, and that all comes from the descriptive text. And so the two tools I was showing for the script breakdown is, one is the technical breakdown, and that's what they're focused on, like you were mentioning, and that breaks down all of the staging and things, elements that are in the script. And then the other one was more focused on the content itself. As you can see, there was, it's like, oh, is this what genre is this, or what collection of genres there are, and things like that. So those tools exist. That's the long answer to your question.
But as yet, you haven't seen anything that takes all of that pre-production process and then says, okay, here, I'm going to present to you, a film which is made up of very rough representations, not the actual, character actors, but rather here's a rough representation of, okay, here's person one or whatever the name is, and they're walking this way, and it's actually showing you that in a film.
Actually, there are storyboarding tools, and
move, not just a little, graphic novel kind of
you want the Harry Potter version of the storyboard, so that you
actually there's one that's made for
Harry
mobile
Potter
devices. Hold on. Give me 1 second, I'll pull this up.
Okay, cool.
Let's see here, where is it? I wasn't ready. No.
All I can think of is now looking at a Harry Potter storyboard version of everything, like the live videos that are on the phone. You know, everything is
Right.
moving just enough. Yeah.
And the
Mhm.
and
I love it.
person walks from this scene to the next, right? Because
Oh
they
my
can
God.
go
Yeah.
into
That'd
each
be
other's.
awesome. That's awesome.
Okay. Let me see. Here we are. Okay. So I don't know how easy this is to see, but
We can make it a little better.
so
Maybe.
Plotagon is essentially what you're talking about. Is you can break out your script, put it into this app, and it will generate some basic animations based on your scripting cues.
That's
So
awesome.
so
And
yeah, so
cool.
there.
And then can you edit? Say, okay, no, I want the camera to be behind the woman in this scene.
Yes, I don't know to what extent you have to go in there and muck around. I have not used these in particular, so
Right.
I'll disclaimer there. But this is just an example of there is a tool for each stage of
Yeah.
filmmaking.
Cool.
Right.
So eventually we'll get to the point where even a non-proficient person in the world of filmmaking can create a personalized movie. I can write a script from, or I can have AI generate a script from a prompt. Here's a story about this, and I know that these things are already in their nascent versions; they're already existing. But eventually, we get to the point where I can design my movie for Friday night for the family, and have it generated entirely by AI.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Well-
we'll eventually get there. It is a matter of, like what Carl said, though. It's a matter of skill and experience. So you can kind of do that now. It just is the amount of work that you want to put in. Anybody can use the iMovie, and throw in home video and have it cut up and put a music track on it.
Right.
Kind of the big selling factor of including iMovie in all, Mac computers. And so it just becomes a degree of quality, right?
Right.
And making a whole movie is not the same as presenting a movie for distribution on Netflix or something like that.
Right. And text generation is further along than video generation right now. You could literally sit down and create the novel based on a prompt that you wanted your family to read on Friday night. That doesn't make it a good novel, right? The fact that it could be the extent of the whole Friday to read it. But what Carl said was it takes years and years to learn the skills. And I think that's the piece that is different. Because I don't think it will take years and years because the time in building it will be smaller. And the thing, like in the improv community, I have a bunch of friends who participate in the 24-hour film festival. That's where I'd look to see where the things are shifting and what is possible.
What is
in
that?
A small 24-hour film festival? You get assigned a genre. You sign up with a team, you get assigned a genre, you have 24 hours to make your film and submit it. And then people watch them.
If you love filmmaking, it's really fun experience. Tiring. Oh yeah, you're pretty much up for all 24 hours, but it's super fun.
But that's been a kind of benchmark of what's possible in 24 hours. And that's going to shift. What is possible to be able to do in 24 hours with AI assisted? I don't know if the film festival is going to allow that, but like that's for me what I would be watching to see what's changeable, what can happen.
It is, and I remember I took part in a couple of those during the pandemic. We had the filmmaking communities I'm in. They're like, oh, we have like a one-shot challenge. You can't cut. You just have one shot, or spin top challenge, spin something, create a cinematic sequence out of that. And I guess you could, with the tools now, you can't. There's just no way you can do some of the thing, the basic wide, medium, extreme angles that a filmmaker would have in the repertoire to understand. I'll give you an example. In Midjourney, when I start seeing people who actually put in lens, ISO, all those elements of photography and filmmaking, you have to learn those, and then not just learn those, learn to apply them in a way to tell that story. And I think it, I don't know, just I guess where I came from is for how I learned all this is like story trumps everything. Story will, if any kind of film, it doesn't matter if you have the best gear, the best tools, if you can't tell a story correctly, coherently, and something that engages the audience, it won't matter. So the question is, can an AI tell a better story than a human? And I don't
Some
know.
Humans. Maybe not the best humans, but a lot of humans.
I just feel like if we got all AI tools today, like the top of the line tools, but then each of us make our own film, like, and then we go up against a filmmaker who has the exact same skills, who has exact same tools, I think we'll see the gap in that filmmaking talent. Like, do you ever see when you see your movies? I have always heard this too, especially from a new filmmaker. It's like, how come your videos look better than mine, even though I have all this gear? And I'm like, it's really not the gear. It's just like, you can start all the different things, the lighting, the audio, right? All the things that you can't point out, it's there. So it'd be curious to see how AI does that, like takes that, which is, I don't know how right now it can do that.
And this is well timed. This like just literally like it just showed up in my house, right? The iPhone, literally, like I was stepped away for 2 seconds because you have to sign for it, and I was like, I'm not missing this. Leave the show.
No, you gotta go get that. Mine's delivered to the wrong address.
My point to it, Carl, is like what you were just saying, which is like, I mean, me and my friend Angela Murray, who's a phenomenal photographer, could both get this iPhone in our hands, and there's no doubt about it. She's going to take better pictures than me over and over and over again. Now, could I be enhanced with some AI that's saying, we see you're in a field and the lighting is behind you and you need to move 2 feet to the left in order to do that. And also, by the way, we'll just fix this in post, so don't even really worry about it. Like, we'll get all your apertures and all that stuff kind of figured out for you. And now all this expertise that my friend Angela has is now being embedded with AI. And so I agree with you. At the end of the day, it probably does come down to storytelling. Going back to the Pixar example, that's what has separated them. It's not their ability to create animations. It was their ability early on, and I don't think they have this mode anymore. It was their ability early on to create amazing stories. John Lasseter and the people who started that, that's what they did. They made amazing stories that happened to be also animated. So I agree with you on that like it still comes down to how are you going to communicate the story? How good is that story? And then all the other tools kind of go along with it. I just think like what we're looking at though is, and I heard Tom Hanks say this, hey, look, in a short period of time, you and me are going to me and Tom Hanks are going to be able to be in the same film. And to your point, Andy, coming home on a Friday night and just saying, let's see what this looks like. And I can input Tom Hanks and Marilyn Monroe and myself and have a 30-second clip or all that of all of us engaging. And like, that's coming. We know that's coming. And so I know we haven't really touched on it because we're kind of at the end, but just curious, it's sort of as we're wrapping up, maybe even the TLDR, like, how is this going to impact all these tools, Jimmy, that you've talked about, and which are amazing to me. And I think about the young creators and all these amazing tools, but how is this going to impact jobs, for these people? Or do they need to be worried? I mean, is this something that is going to just wholesale replace jobs? Because if I don't need somebody to do transcription and dubbing, a la Hey Jen, right? And I don't need actors anymore, and maybe I don't really need, lighting people anymore because I have an AI that'll teach me how to do that. And I don't need somebody to help me clean up my script anymore because I can get AI to help me with that. What are we looking at? The proliferation of more people and the democratization of ideas? Or are we looking at lots of people losing jobs because AI can replace them?
Yes, not or.
Yes,
you not all.
As a smart actor, though, you'd be like, wait a minute. I'm going to take full advantage of this. I'm going to license myself. Like, 100 times over. I'll be like, yeah, use me.
I'm sure that's happening.
Right? It's like as Bruce Willis, the older actor, be like, yeah, I want to be seen as Tom Cruise, even though we're like the same age. I don't know, like, but like that's what I mean. It's like you can have young Tom Cruise for like 30, 40, 50 years until people get tired of Mission Impossible 34. That's what it is.
Right. But then the person who would the young Tom Cruise-ish actor doesn't get that opportunity, right? Like there are consequences of that.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah,
that's
a good point, Beth.
I have a tangential point, which is we've been talking about entertainment media, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are dramatic and comedic kind of filmmaking things. What about documentaries? There's an enormous amount of video being captured out there in the world. What about a really powerful AI that can create on demand a documentary about an event that's happened just hours ago and present it, and you tell it how long a documentary you want? It kind of transforms news filmmaking and or just knowledge transfer about distant things that are happening but are being captured by video. If you've permitted that, like your new iPhone 15, if you happen to take some video of something and you have a sort of release this publicly, AI can receive that and incorporate that into something that somebody else is looking at in a documentary format somewhere else in the world.
I think
that's an amazing idea. Like somebody pitches a perfect game yesterday and there's a 30 on 30 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Slippery slope because it's not distinguishable from AI not taking someone else's footage but making it look like it did, right?
Although documentaries though are like there's a lot of it's grounded in real person interviews. Like that's going to be a tough one to get. It's like because even though there's a lot of footage and a lot of but a lot of that footage is backdropped with an interview of somebody telling that story, whether it's about them, about a situation, about that. So that would be curious to see how they're gonna. Would it create like a fictional person that's telling that story? Because that's what the whole.
Or would it make an AI avatar of an actual person?
And
then now we get into the conversation of the deepfakes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's start out with documentaries about historical periods that for which
that
we
would
have
be really
I
fun.
saw the video. Abraham Lincoln didn't say that.
We're just talking with Einstein or Lincoln or or anybody in an interview setting. That would be fun. But yes, that would have to be people who've definitely
General Eisenhower, right? In World War II. That'd be interesting. Like, what did he? And then you'd have like a Hitler, or somebody create Hitler, and like what his perspective was on like why they lost, and then it would be like interesting from like all the world wars or major historical events that really that'd be very fascinating.
Fascinating, but
you
also
are welcome,
to
Ken
Beth's
Burns.
point, because
we can see your next documentary. Sorry,
I live in Florida, so I will just say that. Yeah, that's a slippery slope. I worry about the versions of actual true events and how they'd be being. I mean, that's already happening in our textbooks and stuff like that, and but I would be concerned with that, to say the least. That it's going to be a whole lot more believable if, instead of just reading it in a textbook, the teacher turns on a quick video, whether it's AI created, Mussolini's or not, telling their perspective. That's, as a human, we're going to feel much more attached to that because it's a human talking to us. And if it feels like a very real documentary, even more so, because I think that's just kind of what we're conditioned to, look at, absorb, and things like that, versus text off a page. So that's crazy. And look, like all our topics, we're already 4 minutes over on a Friday, so I want to wrap this up. This is like Jimmy, like all the stuff you just shared, and Carl and stuff like that. This stuff is fascinating, and as always, it seems like we could do a whole week on this and probably still only scratch the surface. What I got out of this, not even the TLDR, but what I got out of this is that if you're a creator, there are now more tools than ever to help you do amazing creative things. What I get from Carl was, careful, you know, it takes a long time to cultivate and maybe become the storyteller to the level that you would need to create amazing stories. So maybe AI can't fix that. It's still, at the end of the day, you may have a really beautiful AI created boring story, right? And so we've seen that many times. We've seen $400 million movies and such that are super awful, you know, that have awful stories but look amazingly visually awesome. And then Andy, what you were saying as well, you know, and well, that too. Yeah, a lot to think about. Any final thoughts on this? Because you guys got my head like all over the place on this now. This is a good discussion for sure.
And Andy, you're muted, so I'm not sure what you were saying before.
I was just saying I can create a boring story. I've been told that. But I just want to say in closing, thank you, Junmi, for being an expert in this area. And you know, we've only scratched the surface, even after spending many weeks with you, about what it is that you know with the tools and the world of Hollywood and filmmaking.
We need more of this. More. I say more, Junmi. More. Come back and do more of
right.
this.
Well, you know, maybe we can ask our viewers, let us know what you want us to deep dive into. We'll do what we want, but let us know what you want so we can cover all of those topics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. All right, guys. Well, here comes the music. And with that, that's the end of Aloha Friday. Hope everybody has a great week. I think most of us will be back next week. I know I'm out 2 days, but we'll have crew in here every single day talking about AI and all the amazing things going on in the world of AI. So until then, we will see you next week. Bye, guys.
Happy Friday.